All right, we are here with our second episode of officially named Inside the Box. I'm here today with the man, the car stereo electronic master over here, Dan with Auto Editions. How you doing today, Dan?
I'm good. I'm sure they don't think I'd go quite that far with it. Maybe about half of that.
Well, thanks for joining us today. As I mentioned, Dan is the owner of Auto Editions. If you do not recognize that name for some reason, which you should by now, it was formerly Dan's Mobile Electronics. Dan, why don't you give us a little information on why that name switch kind of took place there?
So when I originally started the business, I'm in the mobile electronics industry. Unfortunately, customers don't really realize there's a mobile electronics industry. So I called myself Dan's Mobile Electronics, thinking of the industry that I was in. And customers think of that as being mobile or mobile phone repair, things of that nature. So I held on to that name for a while and then just finally decided it was time for a change, plus the fact the business started to take on new ventures that included things more than just electronics.
Right.
So it just seemed fitting to have a name that kind of encompassed everything.
So I almost forgot to do it again, but I'm trying to do something with these where at the beginning I ask a question, and then at the end you'll answer it, and that would be the question I've been thinking of going with is, what is the hardest part of running your own business? Mm-hmm. So we're not going to answer that now. We'll save that for the end.
So I need to think about that.
So you can kind of ponder on it in the back of your head here as we're chatting. But I remember for those of you that don't know, we do a lot of social media and videos and stuff for Dan. When he came to us with the name change, I thought it was a good idea. Especially when you explained it to me and all that different stuff you're doing. Why don't you give us a little history about you? How'd you get into the car electronics and?
Well, for some reason, I was just interested in electronics at a very young age, and I had an uncle that repaired TVs for a living.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they actually repaired those things.
Back in the day
Yeah. So I spent a lot of time in his basement tinkering with things, and he showed me things, and then I kind of had a love for cars, and the two combined just made sense. So when I was 14 years old, I was putting stereos in for older friends that were driving. My sister, I was putting stereos in her car.
How old are you?
43.
43.
Yeah.
It seems like back then there was definitely like a big era, and I don't know, maybe it still goes on now, but it seems like there was like a really strong era of car stereos.
Oh, there was definitely, I would say probably early 90s to maybe 2002.
Yeah, because
so.
I know I had subwoofers and speakers, and I had custom box, and even I did just, obviously they were just back then just shitty little stereo installs. It used to be so much easier than now with all these new dashboards and all the crazy stuff you got to do.
Yeah, I think there's, at least in the loud stereos, there's been a decline. Probably from
more quality now.
Yeah, we're seeing customers that are more interested in integrating things into their vehicle instead of throwing a big box with a couple 15s back there.
Womping down the street.
Yeah, and I think some of that too is the clientele has changed from, at least the clientele that I receive is not so much the younger clientele, but the older clientele. And
right.
They're more interested in making things sound better, integrating it into the vehicle so it looks like it was supposed to be there, not taking up trunk space, things of that nature.
Still have the efficiency of the car.
Yeah, but I started in it when it was big and booming everywhere and loud as you can and all that stuff, and yeah, just hobby turned into a career pretty much.
Yeah. So how many years would you say that you've really been doing it for?
Well, if you wanted to say professionally, it's been about 23 years. If you wanted to say since I've had my hands in it, probably about 29 years.
That's crazy, yeah. Well, that's awesome. I'm sure you've seen it all at this point.
It makes me sound really old, actually.
Hey, we're all getting up there at this point. Jeez,
yeah.
Time flies by.
Yeah.
But Yeah, that's awesome. No, I used to. We used to do all kinds of. My friends would throw me a little bit of money to install our little car stereo. But man, what? So I mean, nowadays, like, what would you say? Like, I mean, it's got to be a lot more challenging. Dashes are so more, or like.
Definitely more challenging. Even integrating into some of the factory audio systems.
Does a lot of it go that way now?
Yeah, and you're not. Amazingly, the manufacturers are getting better and better at making cars sound better. But when they do that, there's actually a lot of complex things going on behind the scenes. There's processing that's done to the speakers, time alignment, equalization, and it's all kind of tailored towards the speakers that are in the car. So if you start changing things, some of that needs to be corrected.
Also.
And a lot of that can get pretty complex.
Yeah, I remember, what was my car? The year of, I think it was an '04 GMC Denali. And I was putting, what did I put into it? I think I put a screen in there, and I had to buy like a freaking, I think it was like $200 part just to adapt to the amplifier they had in there, the Bose amplifier or whatever. Yep. Geez, that's crazy. But yeah, that's interesting. I could see that. But with that being said, that's kind of what also is why you've kind of spread into all these other things, right? Like,
correct.
Yeah, you got the heated seats, and what are some of the other things? I mean, I know some of them. Why don't you go and share with our listeners and watchers here?
Well, surprisingly, some of the things that you would think people still don't need on cars anymore, that they're equipped, but they're not. We still put cruise controls in.
Mm-hmm. Got to have that, especially if you do any kind of road trips. Geez, we were going to Colorado one time, and my buddy's like, oh, yeah. He's like, we could take my car. And I'm like, oh, all right, awesome. Because I had an SUV, and he had a car. I'm like, we'll get better gas mileage, whatever. And I'm like, all right, I'll start the drive. I don't mind driving, you know. So I jump in there, and I get going, and we're like almost to Jacksonville. I'm like, hey, how do I set the cruise control on this thing? And he's like, oh, there's no cruise control. And I'm like, what? I was like, I would happily paid the extra money in gas just to have cruise control.
Yeah. You know, sometimes customers, after we do some work for them, they'll say, so what all do you do here? And I'll mention off cruise controls, and they'll say, well, cars still need cruise controls? And it's shocking, some of them that don't have cruise controls. We'll have cars that have power door locks, power windows, a touchscreen in the dash, no cruise control. I even got a call on a Volvo a couple years ago, no cruise control.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So what were some of the other things that kind of interrupted you there? Sorry about that.
Oh, yeah. So satellite radio integration. We've got some cool pieces. If you've got a brand new car, we can put satellite radio on almost anything that'll work directly through the radio instead of having to add one of the separate pieces that a lot of people end up doing because they don't know that other options are available. Leather kits, so if you've got cloth in your car and you want to switch to leather, we pull it all off, pull all the cloth off, put the leather on. Looks like it came down the factory with leather in it.
I know I put some leather covers on mine, and when you told me how you pull off the cloth, I was like, I wonder if I should have tried to pull off or just had you do it and not try to do it. It was a pain in the ass to do. Geez, like, and I don't know if it was just because maybe they were more made to pull off the cloth, but it was hard to get those damn things over the seats. Jesus.
Yeah, I've told some customers before that we install leather, and they say, oh, you just slip it on. Yeah, I wish it was that easy. It can be a challenge.
Yeah, no, mine, man, my hands were hurting, and they send you this tool with the ones that I got, and it was a pain in the butt, man. I was sweating and trying to pull those damn things over. I mean, they fit tight, which is good, but it was freaking hard to get those things on there. Well, winter's coming up. I know the remote starts and heated seats, right? That's
our big thing in the winter.
Yeah. Remote start. I know I had you do one on my car, and geez, those things make a big difference. Anybody that does not have a remote start, if you just try one or use one for a day, it's crazy how nice it is, especially in the winter, even in the summer with if you want to cool it down in there. Do you ever do can you install air conditioned seats, or is that?
It can be done. It's to do it correctly. There's a couple of different ways it's done. There's really, they call them cooled seats, but they're more ventilated seats.
Right, just like a fan blowing up on you.
Yeah, and I try to stay away from those because they're not really the quality that we want to stand behind. But there are actually cooled seats that have a cooling module that will force, it's about 45-degree air through the seat. But in order to do that, the cover has to be able to circulate air. So if you have leather, the leather needs to be perforated. You need to have foam sewn into that leather. We've actually got a Dodge Caravan, Chrysler Pacifica, coming in a couple weeks, and we're doing heated and cooled seats for him. He'd bought one a couple years ago, and that's not an option on those vehicles. Right. We really wanted it.
They're pretty nice. I thought, I was like, I'll never need that. That's ridiculous. Yeah. But man, like in the summertime when it's hot and you get that back sweat, butt sweat, swamp bass going, those things cool you off.
A lot of things I feel like until somebody actually tries them, they don't realize what they're missing.
And then you get spoiled by it, and you're like, all right, I guess I need that. Well, that's why I had you do the remote start. My SUV had it, and I was like, man, this thing is great. So I knew I had to get one in the van. Just when you get in the car and you're not freezing your balls off as soon as you jump in, man, it makes such a difference. What are some of the other things that you work on or have worked on?
Boy, putting me on the spot here.
I mean, obviously vehicles are the obvious one. But
as far as, we've been doing more and more motorcycle audio.
Yeah, that's got to be challenging.
Yeah, that's, it's not quite as complex as the electrical system in a vehicle.
But just the space.
Exactly. So most motorcycle customers want it loud, want their stereo loud, understandable.
Right.
You've got to get over that Harley exhaust, But therein lies the challenge. You've got a limited electrical supply in a motorcycle.
Yeah, because they got small batteries on them.
Small batteries, small charging. You can't go adding batteries anywhere because there's hardly any space. Then you're dealing with a motorcycle that gets beat up like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
The space that you have to mount things are tiny, so you're putting amps with as much power as you can possibly get into a small fairing that's getting beat up, and it's enclosed,
right.
And it gets hot. Those guys are always out in the sun.
Mm-hmm.
But we've researched a lot of products and had a lot of success. Things have been reliable and
because you have some unique. I know we did a video on some of those like real low depth speakers and special different speakers you found for that stuff.
Yeah, we just finished up a bike that we had special magnets on the speakers, special amplifiers designed to go into a motorcycle. They're efficient, so they don't tax the charging system and the battery in the bike.
So the company actually makes them basically designed for motorcycles?
Yeah, actually, one of the amps that we put in the fairing, it's called a Moto amplifier, and it's specifically designed for a motorcycle.
Yeah, so there must be definitely a market out there for it then. If companies are making the specific parts for it.
Yeah, when we started, it was see what works in a car and what we can possibly fit in a bike.
Right.
And then those sales just increased, so manufacturers saw the demand for it and started building stuff specifically designed for it.
Do you I guess do you get to talk to like your suppliers much about stuff like that? Do they ever get like feedback from? I'm just curious how much they like reach out to people like, oh, what are you seeing now? What is there anything that we could be, or is there?
Yeah, actually, probably where we send the most feedback as technicians is on Facebook. Most
really?
Of the
groups and stuff.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing how nice those are to communicate with people you know? And I mean, we do it with website stuff and like our cameras. Like we have used these Panasonic GH5s for the most part. And the Facebook groups, man, you just have an issue or something or a question and you just jump on there. It's so crazy how great that. I mean, that's the nice benefit. Some people talk about Facebook negatively sometimes, or the social media. Is like there's so much positivity if you use it that way.
There is, and there's so much value in our industry. I can get tech support on almost anything on a Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening if I need it. But it has helped to improve products. Sony is one of the products that we sell, and they've done a really good job on their Facebook dealer page. They'll put up questions and ask dealers, what would you like to see change here?
That's
or
good.
What would you like added? What could we do to make this product better for you to sell? And then we're able to kind of adjust things, because for the longest time, things were left in the hands of engineers.
Mm-hmm.
And those aren't the guys
Using
putting it in,
and
dealing with the customers, coming back with questions,
seeing all
feedback.
the challenges of all the different vehicles and
Exactly. So it has really helped out.
That's good. That's awesome. So what made you, like, at what point were you doing this and like decided like, all right, I'm going to go out on my own, I'm going to start my own business?
Well, actually, quite a few years back, I was going to open up a retail storefront with a couple other partners and
selling actual parts and everything.
Yeah, retail and installation, and that just didn't work out, which is probably for the better. And it didn't work out, but I had customers that wanted work done, and I just needed a spot to do it. So
retail's tough too, because then you got to stock all this stuff and the shelves. And do people like come in like wanting to just buy something on the spot ever? It seems like that's kind of died off a little bit. With, I guess I'm not in the industry anymore, but I remember like back then it's like, oh yeah, I'll get this car stereo, I'll put it in myself or something, you know, because you could just slide that thing in there for the most part.
I would say probably 2%, maybe 1% to 2% of my sales come from just retail, handing a box if somebody walks in.
Yeah.
The majority of the time, you know, people are seeking out the knowledge that we offer and kind of taking our advice on what needs to go in their car, what's going to perform the best. Because like you and I have just talked about, it's not the same game that it used to be. You can't just grab an amp and subs and throw it in a car and expect everything to work. I mean, some new cars that have noise-canceling microphones, that just won't work.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, you know, we don't stock a whole lot of product, which is kind of nice because I can tailor what's going to work best in a customer's car.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of having...
You're not trying to get the product off your shelf.
Exactly.
Forced to shove it down their throat. This is what you want. Trust me.
Yeah, no. So that gives us some flexibility. And I do. When I put estimates together for a customer, I go seeking product that's going to give them the best bang for the buck.
Yeah, I'm sure with, especially like we talk about with the challenges, you know, with today's cars and stuff, some of those products are probably work a lot better in some cars than others.
Yeah.
So at what point was that though? Was that like, how many years do you think you'd been doing it at that point?
Oh, that was about 14 years ago.
14?
Yeah.
So you started the business 14 years ago?
Yes.
Yes. Nice.
Yes.
That's awesome. It's crazy. I don't know, for people out there that run a business, it's challenging, man. And you know, when you can keep something going that long, and not only that, like live a decent life, like make a decent money paying yourself off of it.
Have some time off, actually.
Right, actually get time off to get to go on vacation or something like that. It's kind of definitely challenging. So what would you say is like the biggest job you've ever done? I know we just recently did that video for you for the that big bus that you did, the party bus. Would you say that that's probably like one of the biggest projects, or is there?
In terms of size, yes, that would be the biggest project.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? I know a few things, but I know you put lights and stereos, and you really did some custom fabrication on that thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everything. When we got that, it was a complete empty shell. I mean, we're talking plywood floor. The rest of it was just the skin of the bus.
And this was, do you know what the length of it was? For the people listening, it was a pretty big. I mean, if you've ever been on a party bus, it definitely holds like, what would you say, 25 people maybe it looked like in that video we made?
He said, I think I was just talking to him about this. I think he said 30 people if it was girls, you know.
Right. They always give it a little bit extra there.
Yeah.
I was actually behind it the other day with my wife, and I was like, that's that van or that bus that our customer Dan did. I don't know where they were heading, but I just saw it on the back, the vinyl or whatever.
Yeah, I want to say 36 feet, if I remember correctly. But, you know, and the thing that, doing a project that size that I hadn't really thought about, of course, I calculated everything ahead of time, but once you get into something, it's always a little bit different than you calculated, was the sheer material involved. So I calculated how much material I was going to need for the seats, the upholstery in the seats, and the windows and the doors and everything. And I think I reordered 3 times. And every time I thought, well, this will be more than enough.
Right.
And yeah, we just kept running out of material because there's just so much surface area to cover.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll throw in a couple pictures here if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. We'll overlay a couple pictures of that. That was pretty cool. What were some of the? Do you remember some of the statistics offhand? I know like originally you kind of threw out like wiring, length, and all kinds of stuff. You recall any of that offhand?
Oh boy. Well, I could get really technical about it, but everybody'd probably be bored with it. Well, I could say thousands of LEDs. Gosh, more LEDs than I put in anything before.
Yeah, gotta have those LEDs nowadays.
Yeah. Well, if you're gonna have a party, you gotta have lighting for the party. For sure. No, I think there's roughly 4,000 watts of power, 4 12-inch subwoofers. We've got speakers lined throughout the bus from the front to the back.
Yeah.
The owner's really happy with it too. I mean, it's done a lot of trips. It's been solid. Everybody seems to enjoy it.
And those things, man, they take a beating from all the drunk people in there and stuff. So there's definitely it put you to the test on that, I'm sure.
I was actually in it. This was about a month ago. He said he thought one of the subwoofers was blown in the back. And I get in there and I'm listening to it, and he's sitting in the back seat, and we couldn't hear anything wrong at all. So I keep playing around with it, and I was surprised when I walked in. It's in much better shape than I expected.
Really?
I mean, I know the abuse those things get.
I actually, like, when I first got done with college, I thought about going on that venture, like, oh, I'll just, invest some money in a party bus, and I have a lot of friends, and I'll work it out. And I was just like, I don't want to mess with that.
Yeah, I've heard stories about, what kind of abuse they get. So I didn't expect it to look near as good as it does, but gosh, it looks almost brand new.
Really?
So the rattle ended up being the back seat was rattling because the subs were hitting so hard. It was causing the seat to rattle. And
yes, good old rattle.
Yeah.
Like the trunk of a car, baby.
He was sitting on the seat, and here we are trying to figure out what's wrong with it. And,
so when you're sitting on it, it's fine, but when you
So, but we got that all straightened out. Other than that, though, it's performed well.
I was always I remember back in the day, people always lining their trunks with what was that stuff called? Dynamat. Yes, Dynamat. That was always funny. I never did that. I always had a nice little rattle going on.
Yeah, I had some of those in high school.
So that was the biggest thing, probably. Would you do one of those again, do you think?
No.
Yeah. I could see that, man. That would be hard to estimate. I mean, I have trouble just estimating when we're doing videos and stuff, like the time it's going to take, and that I can't imagine. Because you got to think, you got to run one wire, like from the front to the back. You're like, all right, there's 40 feet of wire. So yeah, no, that would be challenging. What would you say is like the weirdest? Like I don't know. I know they have like it's not really that weird, but those like 3-wheel things and like what I don't know if you've
probably the weirdest. It's not that weird, but most people would think the guy was crazy. Probably I put some pretty high-end equipment in a tractor.
I remember the one that we did the video of, or a couple pictures of. Yeah. We'll throw up a couple of those too for those watching on YouTube and Facebook.
But when I told people what I put in there, they kind of look at me like I'm weird. But
they spend a lot of time on those.
That's the thing. If you think about it from the customer's perspective, he during crop season or whatever it is they do harvest. I'm sure he spends a lot more time in that than anybody even thinks about spending in
hours,
hours,
I'm sure.
And that's the way he approached me with it. He said, hey, I'm in this tractor hours and hours, sunrise to sunset, and I want a good stereo in here.
For sure, I would.
Yeah, so we did that, and he's enjoyed it. And
it's like your office, man.
Yeah.
Interesting office, but
it was challenging. They don't make those real easy to work on. There's just I haven't been in very many tractors, but as big as it is, it's pretty much just a seat in there with a steering wheel. And there's not much room to
hide
move
wires
around.
Or hide stuff.
Yeah, it was you see the thing and it's towering over you with big tires.
Did he bring it to your shop?
No, I went to his farm and did it actually.
How was that? Was that challenge? I mean, just like, oh shit, I forgot that
Yeah.
damn tool, and I gotta go.
I packed up a bunch of stuff I didn't need and some stuff that I did need. I didn't pack, but
Right.
I think I went back once. I mapped things out pretty good, so it worked out.
Yeah, that was. I remember that now. That was pretty interesting. Talked about motorcycle. You do boats too, though.
Yeah, boats.
That's where I could see that being a little challenging. I know my friend's boat. It was like not like. I mean, back then I guess it was a pretty nice boat, but geez, it would always die because we'd be blasting a stereo and that thing would be dead all the time. We started having to carry a jump pack with us.
Yeah, so there's a few things that I've learned about boats over the years working on them. Speaker placement is important, knowing where to put speakers so you can hear them right. But the thing that I always do for customers that want to sit and jam their stereo is I put a second battery in.
Yeah.
And then you can just shut the main battery off, and it doesn't matter how dead you run that battery.
You're good to go.
You can always start it and get off the lake.
Do you always connect to like the other battery to charge it, or how? I don't know how that works in a boat, I guess. Do they have alternators? Is that?
Yep. Yeah.
I guess they have to.
Yeah, so there's a battery switch, and that switch is off, which both batteries would be completely off to the boat. There's a 1 and a 2 position and an all. So if you stop and you want to listen to the stereo, you put the battery in number 1 position.
Oh, I gotcha.
And then once you're done, you can move it to 2 and start it. You could technically move it to all and start it, but then pop it to all when you're driving down the lake, and it'll charge both batteries.
Yeah.
Worthwhile investment for somebody that's...
Oh, yeah, partying out on the lake,
Yeah.
for sure.
Exactly.
What, have you done, like, any, what's, like, the biggest boat that you've done? Anything crazy?
Yeah.
You know, they have some of those cigar boats or whatever that are super long, and I know not on Springfield much, but I know people I know go down to the Ozarks and stuff.
Yeah, did a 40-foot pontoon in the Lake of the Ozarks. And, yeah, that had a ton of lighting in it. It had a generator, onboard generator, that would charge the batteries.
They were ready to party.
Yeah.
40 foot, geez.
Yeah, it had about 8,000 watts of power in it.
Wow.
Speakers just lined throughout, 4 12-inch subwoofers, speakers facing out of the front of the back, out of the front of the boat, the back of the boat.
Ready to bring the music.
Yeah.
Did it? Was it like an older one that somebody fixed up, or was it like a new?
No,
one?
it was brand new.
Brand new. Yeah.
Brand new.
I know at one point when I was going out on the lake all the time after college, I almost bought like a shitty $3,000 one. I was like, oh, I'll just put down some turf on this, install some stereo. And then I was just like, yeah, I can't get into a boat.
The challenge of that thing, it was so big, and this is something I really hadn't thought about until I was on the boat listening to the stereo, and it performed well, but 40 foot from front to back is a lot of area.
Yeah, it's as big as that damn bus.
Yeah, if you compare that to a car, really in a car you've got a usable space of maybe 5 foot from the front to the back window, and 4 feet wide. And if you think about on a boat when you're out in the open, and this thing's 10 feet wide, and 40 feet long, and you want everybody on there to hear the stereo loud and clear.
Yeah,
That's a lot of speakers and a lot of power.
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you just said, what, 8,000 watts you said about?
8,000 watts, yeah.
That's crazy. And I mean, that's double you said about what you put in that bus. So.
Yeah.
Which understandable because it's all open. Nothing's, contained in there. So I could see that. Huh. That's pretty cool. Yeah, no, I feel like on a boat, that is a must.
Yeah.
It has some good music.
For sure.
Because those, nowadays, I guess a lot of those wakeboarding boats and stuff come with some pretty decent stereos, but those things are like $150,000. It's crazy what that stuff costs.
Yeah, and I've had some customers tell me they've shied away from the upgraded stereo when they bought the boat just because it was a ridiculous
extra
amount of
fee
money.
to tack on.
Yeah.
But you do a lot of stuff for like dealerships, like when people want like something in their car that's not in there, you'll install that though, right?
Yeah, so about 40% of our work comes from dealers, and the majority of that is somebody buying a new car that doesn't have the features that they want. And a lot of times we'll add that before the customer even gets the car in their possession.
Right.
You know, if they want leather, if they want heated seats.
Well, it just goes to show that when a dealership can trust you to put something in a car, they know you must be doing it right or something, right?
Yeah, we certainly do our best. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I know I've been, I had Dan put a screen in my car with Apple CarPlay, and then in our van for the studio here, and they're just helpful, man. That Apple CarPlay is so nice. It just makes it so easy. It's just safer and convenient.
Yeah, if you're on a trip, even sometimes I've got it in my car. Even sometimes in town, I'll use it.
Yeah. Well, I don't even and we send people out to jobs a lot of times. That was one of the main reasons I wanted it. And I didn't want my employees on their phone driving, trying to get somewhere. So just being able to plug in and pull up, maps is definitely nice. They actually just updated the Apple CarPlay. It looks nice.
Yeah.
It's got split. You can have the map, your music, and see it all at once. So I plugged in after the update, and I was like, oh, look at this. This is good.
That's kind of the nice thing about technology, and especially CarPlay. Your radio is constantly evolving because CarPlay is constantly evolving.
So it just connects from it and pulls in the information.
Yeah, you've got automatic map updates, things like that. Used to be you had navigation in your car. You'd have to spend $200-300 every 2 or 3 years to get
the
updated
maps.
Yeah.
I saw a video the other day that was pretty cool. I think it was on a Snapchat or something, and it was in a truck. And in the armrest, they have some of those trucks have that plastic thing in the middle. And just had a wireless charger, so you could just set your phone right there in the armrest in the middle. Do you do wireless chargers?
Yeah, that's something that we're venturing into, and we've done a few. And as the demand rises, which I'm sure,
it's definitely a newer thing.
Yeah, we're starting to add those into vehicles. So
yeah,
like
that's
my
convenient,
car,
man.
Yeah, I've got a 2014 Fusion, and it didn't come with it, but I added one to that. Yeah.
I know you you've done a couple Teslas, haven't you? That's pretty done some work on a couple Teslas.
Yeah, we haven't done anything in the exterior yet. We just did some vinyl accent wrapping a couple different times. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I wonder if that would. I don't even know. Have you ever looked at what's involved with doing a stereo in a Tesla?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that would be really challenging.
Yeah, I had a customer contact me with a Model S and wanted an upgrade, so I did some research on it. We didn't end up doing the job for him. I'm not sure he did anything at all. I never heard back from him, but I don't just throw some prices off the top of my head. I do the research to know what I'm getting
Cover
into,
yourself,
and
sure.
and not surprise the customer, But from others I've talked to that have worked on them extensively, you can really add a decent amount of power to them without losing battery life, things like that. I know there's challenges. For instance, the new Model 3, they don't even have fuses in them.
Really?
Yeah, there's some kind of solid state protection device.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so if they, blow, I'm so used to saying a blown fuse, the circuit just opens if there's a problem.
Kind of I know I used to have on some of my subwoofers, it was like a fuse that if it blew, you just reset it.
Yeah, self-resetting circuit breaker is probably what you're thinking.
Would that be similar?
This, I've heard, is solid state, so it's a little more advanced than that. Those things kind of work off like a circuit breaker in your house. There's
I guess it'd be pretty much the same.
Yeah, a piece of metal gets hot and it causes that to open. This, I believe, I haven't seen them, but kind of monitors things from somewhat, I would call, a computer's perspective.
And then backs it off itself.
Exactly.
That's what I think would be challenging, just because the whole it's basically just a big ass computer in there.
Yeah.
So that would be interesting. Is it? Do they talk a lot on those Facebook groups and stuff about the adaptation of things that are changing like that and what people are doing and whatnot?
Oh yeah, there's a couple groups that are specifically geared towards just that, just integrating audio into a vehicle and specific vehicles at that. And what's kind of nice about it is, if I get a new vehicle in that's not up on the page, I'll run tests and then I'll show my tests to that group. so the next person that comes along can gather that information, and they're not spending the time to research that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, the groups, Facebook groups are, that's all. Yeah, we've started a couple groups for a couple different things. We haven't pushed a lot in it yet, but we have like a Springfield, Illinois, like marketing tips and online marketing tips and discussion. And I think I might have added you to that. I don't recall, but we try to jump on there and throw in little tips or things to think about. Or for a while we were doing some Tip Tuesdays. We need to do some more of those, but yeah. So I know we've done a lot of videos for you over the last couple years here. How have they been? You pretty happy with them? I mean, I know you said you've even had people out in public like kind of come up to you and
I haven't signed any autographs yet.
getting on that famous level, good old Springfield famous.
Yeah, no. And I'm definitely not the person to be in front of a camera all the time. It's something new for me. And
Well, it's so tough with business owners because nobody wants to. And I understand it's weird. It's hard to get used to, especially, I mean, we have customers that are 55, 60, and it's like, just go with it. Just talk. It's best. Like one person I've been talking to, they want to get like a spokesperson.
Oh boy. Yeah.
And I'm like, they're not going to know your business as well as you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just getting that comfortability and it's so awesome. Like once you start doing it, like people just feel like they know you, they reach out, but you have a good Facebook following. Like the people, like you're definitely one of the accounts that, and I mean, you have the people that like car audio, obviously it's going to kind of appeal to them and be interesting, but people get on there, they interact, and it's almost, I don't know, maybe they all do know you, but everyone's like, oh, Dan's the best. Oh, you know what I mean? It's awesome to see that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is a good feeling, and it feels good too to be out and somebody will say, hey, yeah, no, I saw you from the videos.
Yeah. When you've had that, is it usually people you know, or have you ever had anybody random? I know a couple of our customers that have like had some random people. They're like, I think I know you from some video. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of times I'll meet somebody and it's not related to work.
Right.
I'll meet somebody through another friend and they'll mention it.
Oh,
say,
okay.
oh, hey, yeah,
right.
yeah, I saw your videos.
Yeah, and that's why they're so great, because it feels like, obviously it's kind of weird somebody feeling like they know you a little bit, but from a business standpoint, it's awesome because they feel that connection, and when you can make that connection with somebody, and consistently do it, it's just you're top of mind, as soon as they're driving in their car or get in their car in the middle of winter and it's freezing cold. Ideally, you know what I mean? It's like, I need a heated seat, I better call Dan up here.
Yeah. Well, I think the majority of customers too, they want to do business with somebody that they feel like they somewhat know. Obviously the trust is, important, but I think there's more of a connection if there's a recognizable face when you walk into the business.
Definitely.
For sure.
And not only that, but like the knowledge that you're sharing in some of those videos, even if people don't understand it, it's just, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, wow, this guy knows what he's talking about. I have no idea what that means, but he, you know what I mean? And just seeing some of the different products and stuff, and just when you use them, how you use them, that's so awesome. And, I've told a lot of our other customers too, like, it's good, like, this video is great for right now, but imagine like 10 years from now or something, when you have that collection of old footage that you could go back and share if you wanted to, or, you know what I mean, do something with, or show like, oh, look what we were doing back then. Look at those stupid old speakers. Now look at this thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because who knows what it'll be in the future with these speakers. They get so crazy and change so many things. I know, like, those ones, what was it you were doing? It was about like, back in the day, you always wanted those, like, it was about the magnet, like if you had a giant magnet, you're going to have these awesome speakers. Yeah. And I remember that when, it's funny when we do these, I just think of such, all the old stuff back in the day. But, and these ones had little magnets, but they still like.
Yeah, they were the neodymium rare earth magnets.
Yeah.
So, just
technology.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's awesome. Well, is there anything else that you want to share or talk about, or specials? I know we coming up. It hasn't been announced yet, but we are running. You are running the special for Veterans Day.
Yeah, well, coming up here a week before Veterans Day, we'll be running a special on remote starts and heated seats. And then we do have some, promotion lined up that I think we discussed that, didn't we?
Well, people stay tuned. We're going to be doing a little giveaway.
Yeah, I think that'll be interesting. Kind of go with the whole Christmas theme and
for sure. But so yeah, Veterans Day coming up, 10% off, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So if you are a veteran or active military, you can get 10% off your heated seats if you get a deposit made, at least a deposit made, an appointment scheduled the week before Veterans Day and the day of. So that'll be awesome. And man, those heated seats are nice.
It's going to be on remote starts too.
Was it heated seats or remote starts or both?
I'm going to do both.
We're going to do both?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it'll be both.
Yep.
Heated seats, remote starts, just keeping you veterans and military warm for the winter.
Yep.
All right. Well, Dan, it was a pleasure having you on. Thanks for jumping on. For those of you that don't know, you can listen to this pretty much on everything. Apple Music, Spotify. We got. You can watch us on YouTube and Facebook. Ryan, what are some of the other platforms?
There's Overcast.
Overcast.
Google Podcasts.
Google Podcasts. It's pretty much everywhere if you search. Inside the Box is the official name now. And I think if you also put Box Media, you could probably find it that way. But we appreciate you coming on, Dan. Always a pleasure speaking with you. And hopefully we'll maybe in the future here talk another time.
Sounds good. That last question.
Ah, yeah, yes. Oh, see, I'm not even used to it yet. All right. Hardest part of being a business owner, what would you say?
Yeah, I definitely know the answer to that, and I don't know if you'll share this with me or share the same feelings. I absolutely love what I do, but probably the most difficult part about it is just not ever being able to 100% get away from it.
Yes, I agree with that.
There is no escape. I do envy the people that I know that have jobs with vacations and they get a week off.
Right.
They don't have to worry about anything at all.
Go away, completely check out.
Monday morning, and for me, something's always on my mind, whether it's a job or a customer or what we're gonna do next week.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
making sure you're ready.
Yep.
And not only that, when you got employees, it's like they get paid first.
Yeah.
So it's just making sure. I totally agree. It's tough. Just completely trying to check out. It's a hard thing to do.
That's a good way to say it. Just completely trying to check out. That
is
the challenge.
You did take a vacation recently, though, right?
Yeah,
finally.
I did.
How was that? Were you able to check out at all during that?
Well, fortunately, I was in a place that had lack of cell phone service.
Where'd you go?
Lake Tahoe, California.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So I was able to check out when my phone didn't work.
Yeah, there you go.
When my phone did work, I was on it probably more than I should have been.
Yeah, that's tough. I guess that is a good way to do it. Just go somewhere where you're forced to check out.
Leave my phone at home. That's probably what I should do.
So before we go, how did you like Tahoe? That place is pretty awesome.
Awesome. Anybody that ever has an opportunity to go, I say absolutely go.
So for those that don't know, I love snowboarding. It's so much fun. But when I first was learning, I was up in Wisconsin with some buddies and kind of learned and just kept busting my ass and
I did that.
Hurt. But that same year, like literally the next thing we did is I went with my brother who skied at the time to Tahoe, and we get out there and it's with his friends, and one of his friends, well, it was like his friend's friend, but we're staying at his cabin, and this guy had been like in the X Games.
Oh, boy.
And had they all have all these crazy stories. They're all excellent snowboarders. But what they planned was we go to this mountain, and it's backcountry, and there's no lifts. There's a cat, the cats that groom the mountain and stuff. And it takes you to the top of the mountain, and then you ride down, and then it picks you up and takes you to the top. And you wear like beacons on your chest and everything. And this was literally my second time really snowboarding. So I just got thrown into it and was forced to figure it out at that point. But it was like, to this day, probably the most amazing like snowboarding thing I've ever done. It was so awesome. Nobody's around.
Yeah.
It was just so personal, like with that group of friends, and you just like, I don't know, it was just awesome. It was such, and it really wasn't, I don't know what it costs now. This was a while ago. It's probably crazy expensive now to do that, but it was pretty decently priced, really, when you consider like the cost of the lift tickets and stuff.
Yeah.
But man, it was beautiful. Snowing, every track, every turn you took was brand new snow. Make your own path type of thing. It was a little bit scary for me, but I just went for it, you know what I mean, and had a great time. It was pretty cool.
I think I had to build a bonfire at the bottom of the hill.
You have tried snowboarding though?
Yes, actually, I've skied a few times. I'm no expert, but snowboarded once and didn't do too bad. Although every time I fell on my right butt cheek.
Yeah, starts to hurt a little bit.
And over and over and over. And I wasn't so much I was cringing snowboarding, I was cringing that fall because I knew how sore I was on that one side.
And then you just stopped doing well because you're worried about it.
Yeah, and I got used to falling one way, and I always fell in that one same spot.
So I always tell people snowboarding is the learning curve, at least for me, the way I looked at it. It's like extremely hard, and then it just clicks. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, I get this now. And then it's just like smooth sailing. It's crazy.
Skiing.
Yeah.
I mean, the first time I tried to ski, I did nothing but fall. And I was about ready to give up. The next day I went out there and it just clicked.
Yeah, that's interesting how that works.
It is.
All right. Well, thanks again for being on. Dan
thanks for having
with
me.
Auto Additions, formerly Dan's Mobile Electronics. Definitely give him a call for any of your car, boat, motorcycle, stereo needs. Even if it's a challenge, he might not want the challenge, but I bet he'll figure it out how to do it for you.
I'll probably take it on.
He enjoys a good challenge. All right. Thanks, everybody.